For over 30 years, Project Home has experienced the true power of we. Because of countless public and private partners, we continue to believe that homelessness is solvable in our lifetimes. At the federal, state, and local levels, we've called for policies that uphold the right of every individual to safe, affordable housing, jobs, healthcare, and quality education. And we have partnered with tremendous leaders who have used their voices, time, and talents to build real and lasting solutions. Today, we come together to celebrate our successes and look to the future. We welcome our lifelong friends Dorothea and Jovi, with US Housing and Urban Development Deputy Secretary Adrian Todman, Congressman Dwight Evans of Pennsylvania's 3rd District, Project Home resident and employee David Brown, and Project Home Executive Director and co-founder Sister Mary Scullion to share their collective vision of a city and a world where everyone is home.
Thank you so much for being here today. And thank you to all our wonderful panelists around this virtual table and to all of you who are joining us. We believe that none of us are home until all of us are home. Together, we have to raise our voices and elect people who will represent the will of the American people to make housing affordable and safe for all. It is worth noting that today is National Voter Registration Day, and since 1999, the Project Home team has registered and mobilized more than 18,000 voters. I'd like to welcome our panelists, Mr. David Brown, the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development Deputy Secretary Adrian Todman, Congressman Dwight Evans, and Dorothea and Jovi. For any members of the media on this call, we will have 10 minutes for questions at the end. So please share your name, your network, and your questions through the chat, and our moderator will see your questions. I want to begin today by asking each of our panelists to share how you became committed to ending homelessness and hunger in our nation. Let's start with Deputy Secretary Todman, and then we'll move around the screen.
Thank you so much, Sister Mary, and thank you for the invitation to be here. You know, I have been fortunate to have a multi-decade career in housing and have been blessed to be able to help thousands of homeless individuals find a home and sometimes even turn the key in their first unit that they own. So certainly that's been a part of my passion. But I have to say, in terms of the first time I've experienced homelessness, I have to go a little bit further back. I'm originally from St. Thomas in the US Virgin Islands, and it struck me that homelessness wasn't just something in my professional career, that also I've seen families who were rendered homeless because of a hurricane and other natural disasters. And sometimes we forget that becoming homeless can come through many different forms, and seeing families not be able to find a home because of that disaster, I realized that I've been witnessing homelessness for so many years, and so be able to take that and go it into a career to help families and individuals who need it has been enriching.
Thank you, Secretary Todman. Now I'd like to ask John and Dorothea Jovi how you became involved in these issues.
It was back in 2004, under the umbrella of sports ownership many, many years ago in Philadelphia, when we were looking for a way to be more philanthropic. And one night, while seeing a homeless man sleeping on the street, it came to me that it didn't matter if you were young or old, black or white, Republican or Democrat, the issue of homelessness can affect anyone. And so through a dear friend of mine, I was introduced to our moderator and my dear friend, Sister Mary Scullion, who has educated us on the topic, and our relationship continues to this day. But ultimately, it was something that I believed that we could affect change on the issue of homelessness. And I think our little ripple is something that we're very proud of.
Dorothea, do you want to add to that?
Well, I could just add to the hunger piece that, you know, in the economic downturn, you know, where people were really struggling, we thought, you know, we need to look at that. And I was inspired to open a community restaurant that would serve an in need and a paying customer so that we could bring community together and feed some people.
Yeah. Well, you know, we just, you know, thank you so much for the difference that you're making every single day in so many lives. And David Brown, Mr. David Brown, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us why you're committed to this issue? David, I think you're muted. We can't hear you. So can you unmute yourself?
Yes, good evening. I became homeless at the age of 14 because of family issues, and I was going in and out of soup kitchens. And I went into this one soup kitchen several times called St. John's Hospice. And Brother Stanley said, "You're too young to be eating in this line." And he allowed me to live upstairs in the rectory until I turned 18. And then when I came back out into the street, I went back into shelter systems, and they treated me like a statistic. So me and 25 other people decided to build a little issue, and we lived on the wall, which is now in $1 million museum. When I ride by, I smile at it. It used to be called the Youth Study Center. And the reason we choose to live there was because around the corner was police headquarters, and we would be gone by 6 o'clock in the morning. We wouldn't come back to 8 o'clock. But the issue of homelessness when I came into Project Homes was very, very different than any place I ever been. And so that's why I'm part of Project Homes. And
Thank you, David. Secretary Todman, we saw the big announcement last week, which is so exciting, about House America. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and what we can expect and what we can do to help move that agenda forward?
Certainly, you know, we are very excited about this new initiative, and I know that the mayor of Philadelphia joined us last week for that announcement as well, and shared his enthusiasm of one of the dozen or so leaders across the country who've signed up to really do this work. You know, think about the fact that last year when we were all told to stay home during the pandemic, there was at least 1 million of our fellow Americans that did not have a home to go to. They were not able to shelter away from the pandemic. And so this was certainly became an all hands on deck enterprise. I mean, homelessness is an issue prior to the pandemic, and certainly the pandemic has really exacerbated the problem. And the president has made it clear that homelessness has no place in his vision for America. And based on that sentiment and the commitment of the secretary, we engaged in House America and kicked it off early last week. And what the initiative is really challenging all of our nation's leaders at the state and the local level to look at this problem from two different vantage points. One, we need to rehouse as many of our homeless neighbors as possible. We need to have folks to have the kind of vision for their future, the way that Mr. Brown has said so far, in terms of how they can really achieve their best life. So we need to rehouse all of the families who are on the streets and in shelters right now. And secondly, we need to build new housing. We had an affordable housing crisis. Prior to the pandemic, it has been made worse by the pandemic's economic impact across the country. And so we are challenging our leaders to use some of the resources that came out of the American Rescue Plan, both in terms of 70,000 new vouchers that are out there to help our homeless brothers and sisters, but also $5 billion in funds to build new affordable housing across the country. And that's just a down payment in terms of some of the resources we hope to achieve. And so we are thankful to have this opportunity to share that with everybody listening here. And if you want more information about how you can join this movement, you're welcome to go to our webpage at HUD.gov.
Thank you so much, Deputy Secretary. That's very exciting news, and certainly something that we and others across our nation want to get involved in. I'd like now to introduce Congressman Dwight Evans, who is no stranger to many of us, and in fact is one of our champions in DC, as he serves on the Ways and Means Committee and is so active in rebuilding neighborhoods, and affordable housing is one of his signature initiatives. So Congressman Evans, can you give us a little bit about how you became involved in caring and committed to the issue of affordable housing in our state and in our nation?
Thank you, Sister, for this opportunity to have this discussion. I don't think this could be more timely than now that you're having this discussion. And I share with you that consistency is always what I view is leadership as a factor in addressing this issue. Look, I've learned a lot from you specifically, as you say, the power of we. And there couldn't be a more appropriate statement that you have made by you saying the power of we. And so I've been very fortunate to here only serve in Congress for 5 years, but I was in the state legislature for 36 years. And that combination of the state legislature and the federal government has given me a unique perspective. And the perspective is that when you think about it, housing is very essential to any person, not just living in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, or the world, is they need a place to live. And watching you and listening to you and watching the collective leadership you have been able to gather together really build on the incentive of me when I got the chance to go here to Washington. Because I always believed that it had to be a national approach. I believe that the city and the state certainly could do what it is, but I believe that it had to be national. And I think I told you when I went to Los Angeles, and here the second largest city in the United States, and they have that section called Skid Row, which obviously I recall a section in Philadelphia title, where I saw actual tents along throughout the community. And it was amazing to me, and I've been in LA before, it was amazing to me that this was happening throughout this city. It was really amazing to me. And you may recall when I came back to you and I talked to you about how is it that we could attempt to do something. So I, in a sense, joined an effort in the movement that you have, even though there were things I historically did with public housing and things I had done on initiative, but never as comprehensive. And then you introduced me to David. So through the combination of meeting David hands-on and your combination, there's a statement by former Governor Bob Casey, said it in 1993. And I had just become chairman of the House Appropriation Committee. And the statement he made in the state of the address of the state of state, he said, the question will be asked is how exactly do you use the power that you have? Now, he said that in 1993. So being that I was chairman of the appropriation committee, and I ran on the basis when I got elected, is one person can make a difference. So all those synergies described by David, yourself, and other people came together. And then when I got here to Washington, I wanted to get on the Ways and Means Committee, which is the committee in the House, it's in the Constitution, and it is the one committee that everybody has to go through. It's the committee that signs off on revenue. So that means that's an opportunity. And you may recall when I invited you here, you were like icing on the cake, right? You was icing on the cake to close the deal, introduce your speaker. So these are things I plotted in my head, you know, but I said, here's an opportunity. And I said, we have to take advantage of this opportunity. I'm sitting on the Ways and Means Committee. You come and other people come together, they bring together, that's that power of we that you described. So I formed alliance with Congressman from Western Pennsylvania, Mike Doyle, a congressman from Northeast Pennsylvania, Matt Cartwright, Maxine Waters from California is the chair of the Financial Service Committee. Marsha Fudge used to be a congresswoman from Cleveland, now she's head of HUD. I started, putting these things together in my head, and then I get on Ways and Means. So I get on there and I see all these people around laid out, and I see this struggle in the particular case of Philadelphia, but I just talked to you about Los Angeles, and I hear Oregon, you talk about Oregon, you talk about Hawaii. I mean, this is not just unique to the Parkway. This is worldwide. So that means then the power of we have to take advantage of it. So here I am, this is my 5th year, and with the collective leadership, I say we can fill the vacuum. And then President Biden gets elected, Senator Harris, all of these things start falling in place. We're in the majority in the House, majority in the Senate. There's no reason why we can't do what you have said, something that was a simple phrase, but we can actualize it. We can implement it if we function together. So that's where I came from, because I have had this experience. I've been around for a little while. I started realizing, let's take a minute, because I watched the reaction as we were together yesterday. I can't think of that gentleman's name, but you had John from the Phillies. And I noticed how private sector people want to be involved. I noticed how Jimmy Carter, and they take that lead. I started observing all of this. And I said, this is an opportunity. Yes, it's unfortunate we're in the midst of a crisis, but take advantage of that crisis. Take advantage of that. That basically became my attitude. So I really want to thank you and others that I've just had this opportunity to be focused and intentional about this.
Thank you, Congressman. Again, it was really John Bon Jovi who called and named the power of we, but he often reminded us one person can make a difference. But when you come together with people from all walks of life, we can make a miracle. We can be transformational. We can end homelessness in our communities. And it starts by doing, feeding a person, housing a person, registering to vote, be alive and active and participate in any way you can. And as we come together, we do believe and know we can be transformational. And on that note, I want to ask John Bon Jovi that John has prioritized ending homelessness for veterans and for homeless youth. In fact, John Bon Jovi, a pioneer, someone before their time, in 2014, he led one of the first housing for homeless youth, and certainly the first one in Pennsylvania at JBJ Soul Homes in Philadelphia. And since then, he's done over 220 homes in Philadelphia, plus the Hub of Hope, the drop-in center at Suburban Station to help assist people who are experiencing homelessness today. And that's just a small sample of what John and Dorothea have done here in Philadelphia. It's just a drop in the bucket to what they've done nationally. So John, I'd like to ask you what your proudest moment is, and what about this work that gives you pride and energy and strength to continue the fight and the struggle?
Well, each and every project that we've been involved in throughout these 15 years, I'm very proud of. So I couldn't pick one over another, but I guess that the easy answer would be to say that we set out on a mission. We are taking baby steps every day to climb that mountain and make a difference. And I'm most proud of our board, the Soul Foundation board. The group that came together some 15 years ago is the same. It's all the same people that I met in Philadelphia 15 years ago that are still there today and as involved as ever, because our desire is to, in fact, affect change one soul at a time. And with your leadership, Sister Mary, we feel like, we take these baby steps up the mountain every day. So it makes us very proud. Oh, we lost your.
Are you on mute?
John, speaking, sorry, some of your friends from St. Joseph's House in Camden came on the chat to, again, recognize and thank you for your leadership there. Camden, another city in our nation that is struggling by, your leadership and public-private partnerships. Camden is on the rise, and your friends from St. Joseph's House just wanted to give you a shout out and thank you. And again, for us in Philadelphia, we really appreciate your leadership with the next project that we're doing in Kensington, which is the epicenter of the opioid crisis. And again, sometimes people just throw up their hands and say, what can be done? But you and a lot of our elected officials have joined together and said, we can do something by providing recovery supported housing, which is now currently under construction. And we're excited about that next project with you and the JBJ Soul Foundation that continues to make a difference in so many communities. I'd like to ask David Brown. David, you've worked so hard over the years as a leader in the Nicetown neighborhood, and your friend from Washington, D.C., Congressman Evans, has been instrumental in working with you and the neighbors there. What do you see that are the greatest needs for you and your neighbors?
Yeah, well, the reason I work so hard is because of three people on this call. One of them is a statement that someone made, none of us are home till all of us are home. And the other one is living on a prayer. And I live on the prayer that we end homelessness. So they two things keep me going every day, constantly. For the last 10 years, I've been living in my community, Tioga District, and it's so beautiful to have a place that's called home, from sleeping out of cardboard boxes, taking baths in Love Park, washing up in Logan Square. But now I have 3 cookouts that I do every year, and I just don't do the cookouts. I do the cookouts because I never had cookouts at the age of 14. So I know what a child is going through. But the last cookout I do is Memorial Day, when I give away backpacks. And then I ran into this graceful man, Congressman Dwight Evans, entered into Homespun Boutique and said, he seen my flyer, he said, I want to come to that. And when he came to that, the partnership grew. And it's amazing. Every year he shows up. And we don't just go to the cookout, we walk through the community, we talk to neighbors. I have Miss Joyce, she said, this is a beautiful building. Now I can sit on my porch. I don't have to look out and see trash and see an empty building. But this is part of Project Home. This is part of the tribal community Project Homes just didn't change lives, it changed communities. And Dwight Evans, Congressman Dwight Evans realized that and said, listen, we can do something. And we have done something. So for the last 7.5 years, the Tioga District has bloomed. And when I say bloomed, I mean we have block cleanups, we have cookouts, we have benefits that we throw, backpack giveaway with the Archdiocese, teaming with them. So all these things, partnerships that we have, changing community, changing lives. And I know what a kid goes through when they see a smile. Food does tremendous things for people. To have a hot dog, a hamburger, potato chips and soda, it smiles, it lights them up. And then the parents say, wow, we never had this in our community, but they know they can count on it through Congressman Evans and myself and the partners with the Archdiocese and the partnership with Project Homes. So them statements get me up in the morning and put me to sleep at night. None of us are home, to all of us are home, and living on a prayer. And that prayer for me is ending homelessness. Now, you two people on this call didn't know that, but now that you do know it, that's what keeps me going day in and day out. Because, like I said, I lived on the street for 25 years. I'm not waiting for somebody to knock on my door and tell me this is not my place. But now I know it's mine because I've been there for 10 years and the community loves me. When I walk by, I hear people say, hey, Mr. Daoud, hey, Mr. David Brown, hey, Mr. David, how you doing? So these things light me up. It lights my heart up when a child says, thank you, we appreciate you. And when a lady 90 some years old and a lady 80 years old says, wow, look at this community now. And we owe all that through Congressman Evans, and we owe all that through the partnership of Project Homes and the leadership of John Bon Jovi. Thank you.
Thank you, David. And thank you for that powerful witness. Many times people in our community don't realize that ending homelessness enhances the quality of life for everyone. And when abandoned buildings get rehabbed and people are able to live in them and begin to live their dreams and plans, so many more wonderful things happen in a community because of that. And we're just, so proud, David, of you and your leadership and everything you do to inspire us, every single day. Deputy Secretary Todman, our mission statement speaks to the transformational power of building relationships and community as the ultimate answer to the degradation of homelessness and poverty. What are some of the best ways that you've seen that play out in supporting people who are homeless and at times folks who need recovery supported housing? Or what ideas would you like to share with us to consider? And how can we adhere to housing first principles and also build a recovery community in communities where we prioritize recovery?
There you go. As evidenced by what Mr. Brown has said, when you have a place to call home, a lot of the other magic can happen. And we know that's the case because there is a form of ending homelessness that's called Housing First that focuses on homes as being the way to end homelessness. And what we find is which you'd be surprised, there was a point in time when both systems didn't really talk to each other. The homelessness system stayed in one side and the affordable housing folks stayed in another. And it really took more than a leap of faith of folks coming together to realize, let's come together in terms of taking on this critical issue. And we talked about ending homelessness for veterans. We've seen how Housing First played a critical role in that when we began to intentionally house veterans and then provide them with the services that they needed, we were able to reduce homelessness for veterans across the country by 50%. but it took the kind of intentional action that the congressman discussed. You need to make sure that people are coming together, and that's the transformational part of Partnership, Sister. We worked with local housing authorities, we worked with nonprofits like yours, we worked with philanthropic organizations, we worked with the Veterans Administration, and it took all of us coming together with one intentional thought. We want to end homelessness for veterans, and we were able to reduce it by 50%. We're not all the way there, but we're much closer than we have ever been. And that's the same way we need to think about ending homelessness for all of our homeless neighbors across the country. And with that level of intentional leadership, I know the secretary has it, I know the president has it, I know the congressman has it, with that level of being very intentional to make sure that we can't just rely on folks and organizations like yours to get it done. We need to provide resources to allow localities and states to really get that work done at the local level. And that's what this is really about. Fighting here every day to make sure we get resources down to make sure that some of those kids who are eating a hot dog with Mr. Brown are able to find a home in the future and to stay there. I also like to say that once we help folks find a home, it's very important that we help folks stay in their home. And that's another piece of the solution that we need to address. When families and individuals are really vulnerable, and I've witnessed this, and are probably still dealing with other parts of their life that are in trauma, we encourage folks to ask for a little help. There is no shame in asking for help. And sometimes we need to give folks permission to ask for help so that they can stay in the homes that they need. Sometimes they need help paying rent. Sometimes they need help putting food on the table. Sometimes we have families who are trying to decide which one they pay for. That's part of the vision that the secretary and I have, and really the entire HUD team, is making sure that we are providing resources at the local level. So when folks need that little bit of help, that we're able to give it to them.
That help is critically important, Deputy Secretary. And I think the other very important thing that you said is Congress made a big allocation to the VA to end homelessness. It does take money and resources. Today, more than 50% of renters in our nation are paying more than 30% of their income for rent. But the people at the poorest or the most low income people, when the rents go up and their income doesn't, that can translate into homelessness. So Absolutely. It is critically important that the federal government play that role of providing the necessary support in making housing affordable, 30% of a person's income for every American citizen, critically important. So
and that's one of the I was going to say that's one of the reasons we're fighting for more vouchers, which is a key part in helping families stay in their home.
Correct. The vouchers are critically important, and the development of affordable housing is critically important, because again, if the vouchers can be a temporary solution, year by year. So you need both, because right. People are in different, situations. But Congressman Evans, on that note that the Deputy Secretary made, how can we support you and other elected officials in our nation to bring about these solutions to homelessness and hunger? What can we do on the front lines?
I think that, as I got to keep coming back to the statement you made about the power of we, because this is a collective, evidential-based effort. It is not a partisan position. It is not red or blue. It is focused on people. And the mission has to be evidential-based upon people that transcends, when you say it has to transcend. I had the fortune of, though I've been on Ways and Means, I started out with the Agriculture Committee. And I started out with the Agriculture Committee because when I was in Harrisburg, I would always say to people, who doesn't like food? I tell people even vegans like food, just a different kind of food. And the fact of the matter is understanding that combination of hunger and homelessness with the intentional aspect of addressing the challenge that we have, talking about poverty and food insecurity. And one of the things I wanted to do, be able to do, rather biased I am, is use Philadelphia as experimental to show evidential based using Project Home. And that's what I've advocated. And the reason I advocate that because you can build on the model. So when you say other elected officials, it is, in my view, the model type of behavior that in return affects public policy outcomes. Because people could point to something that is evidential based. And what I think people are looking for, you hear it over and over again, like, okay, we had this problem been going on for a long time. Well, what's working? Well, as you talk about the years, as I heard the other day when you said started Project Home 31 years ago, you sister, and you build it up with other people who are on the Zoom, that's all evidential based. And that is something that has to be relentless. This curing the problem by itself is not going to be a single shot. It's not going to be a single shot. It's because there's a lot of factors that go into homelessness as incidents that occur that can affect someone that drives them into being homeless. I listened to David Brown's story when he talks about 14. What drove David to the point at age 14 to become homeless? And it was the aspect that I think about when I listen to his story and I listen to it, it was the collective effort that put together that, matter of fact, I visit David over his place. David's like very proud of his home, very proud. David was gonna have me over there for dinner. I told Dave, I don't need dinner, I don't need to be eating anymore. But David said, hey, I think David does that, cooking too. He does. So that's what I say to you. When you say other elected officials, we have to elevate those models. And obviously, with the person you have head of HUD, and she's a very good leader, you couldn't have a better person who has that level of energy. It's the first person that I met when I came into Washington was Marsha Fudge. And being that she was head of Delta organization, all around the country, believe me, she has huge relationships outside of politics. So this sister, is not quote unquote political, not right, not left, not liberal, because it really is not. For somebody to have lived, it is not. I keep saying it. So that's why I believe it. And you was down here, and I was so proud to have you there. You remember how many people wanted to take pictures with you? And I just stood in the background, right? We just said, and they said, you remember when the speaker, I thought she was going to conduct confession when she was talking to you. She was talking about, she's Catholic and she's talking about her life and Baltimore. The power, you had the power. You remember, you don't talk about it, but I think there's a lot of people who took pictures with you. So it's using that entree to drive the issue. When you say other elected officials, that entree, when you came down here and you was around, moving around, it is using those avenues to get the leverage. By getting the leverage, then you deliver the message. Leverage the message. Connect the message to the leverage. You must be relentless about the message. You must be focused and intentional. You got to wake up with the message. You got to stay on the message. You got to say it until they're nauseated about it. And the elected officials, you got to make it nauseated. You got to make them at the end of the day, like, what did I do when I wake up to make a difference in somebody's life about a home? See, and that's why I said that, I joke with you about, I called you being a czar about housing. That's what I said to y'all. You know, remember that. And that's how we kind of begin to get together in Pennsylvania. So in my short period of time in this position, I'm just saying, using the position, no matter what position, it don't have to be an elected official. It has to be focused, right? It's not going to be done overnight. I'll be the first one to tell you, because there's some complications. It's not going to be a magic. It's not like passing some bill, which would, but I tell you something, as a result of this president and this vice president, the American Rescue Act, right? The American Rescue Act, basically, and we're trying to do these other things. I'm telling you, that sets the tone that you're talking about. That's what I see. That's my opinion.
Thank you so much, Congressman Evans. I'd also like, based on what you just said and how important it is for the people on the ground as well as our elected officials to work together, I really encourage everyone that's listening to be involved in voter registration and getting more and more people registered to vote, because as you said, Congressman Evans, this isn't a partisan issue. When anyone experiences homelessness, no matter who they are, it's just such a devastating and painful experience. And we all, as we're part of one human family, what affects one of us directly affects all of us indirectly. And we have to stand with all of our brothers and sisters that are experiencing the devastation of homelessness and do something about it, and really raise our voices and hold our elected officials accountable to provide those necessary resources to get us to the finish line. So thank you, Congressman Evans. And I'd like to ask Mr. Brown again that, David, I know you've participated in educational programs and in employment initiatives, and you're the Senior Sales Associate at Homespun Boutique, as the Congressman referred to, one of Project Home's social enterprises. Can you tell us about your journey to employment and how these initiatives have played a role in your own personal growth?
Well, again, at the age of 14 and being homelessness, I never went to school, so I never learned how to read or write. So when I came into Project Homes, they gave me everything I needed. I went to Hahnemann Learning Center Technology Lab, and I grasped the 3rd grade reading level, and now I have a 9th grade math level, and I'm the Senior Head Sales Associate at Homespun Boutique. And I did that through the work of the power of we that we speak about. And when I came to social enterprise, it just was amazing how easy it was, because I'm around a bunch of residents that used to be homeless. Now they have jobs. They make candles. They make gift boxes with the Bruno brothers. They do all kinds of pop-up events that we do, candle making, card making, all these create jobs. So when people go online and buy these things, you're keeping someone employed that used to be homeless, along with our fantastic bookstore that is part of social enterprise. So all these books that people have in their house just clogging up, bring them to Homespun Boutique and to social enterprise. We'll take care of it. And it makes a difference. And social enterprise makes a difference because the partnerships we have, like I said, with the Bruno brothers, look at that partnership. We're making gift boxes. Look at Sister Mary's famous delicious cranberry sauce. We're making a difference there. Look at our candle making. Every Thursday, twice a week, you can come back and see residents making candles. And then we sell them candles. And then you see the bookstore, people dropping off books. You can buy them online. This is what social enterprise does. And it gives us a sense of pride. I never paid taxes in my life. Now I'm so proud to pay taxes. I'm so proud to get an income because of social enterprise. So all these things I never had. So I'm like overwhelmed because now I never knew what Gucci was, what her mom, I never knew these things because of social enterprise. And because, like I said, the 2 statements that keep me going every day, living on the prayer to end homelessness, and none of us are home till all of us are home. All this partners together. along with the power of we. So everybody that hears my voice, listen to me. Social enterprise is where it's at. If you want to do something positive with your life and your time, social enterprise is where it's at. Because listen, it's not like handing somebody $1 on a corner worrying about where it's going. We know where it's going. It's going into housing. It's going into employment. So this is what you can donate to. Look at me. I had a beard down here. I smelled like I stunk. I lived on the street. I lived in a cardboard box. Look at me now. Look at me now. I weigh almost 300 pounds and I'm fat and happy because of social enterprise. And all this because of now, I didn't have this before. I weighed 98 pounds when I came to Project Homeless. 98 pounds. Now I weigh 290. But it's social enterprise. I'm going to work every day. I don't have to be to work to 11, but I'm at Homespun and I'm at Project Homes at 9. Why? Because I love the residents. Why? Because I love my community. I love what I do. If you don't love what you do, why do it? So this is the part of the social enterprise and the partnerships that we have. Because like I said, we have an amazing team. We have an amazing team. Nick Watson, Shayla. These two are so amazing with their minds and their what they want to develop and create jobs. So like I said, I smell the candles if you come in the store. All these things is the power of we. That's what social enterprise is all about.
Thank you so much, David. A job really does make such a difference in all of our lives. So, thank you for sharing that. Dorothea, the John Bon Jovi Soul Foundation is celebrating its 15th anniversary. Could you tell us about the Soul Kitchen and other initiatives that the Soul Foundation is doing to address hunger and homelessness in our communities?
Well, as I said, we opened the foundation's 15 years old. The first Soul Kitchen in Red Bank is now 10 years old. And our second location in Toms River is 5 years old. And then about 2 years ago, we were asked to open a Soul Kitchen on the campus of Rutgers in Newark to address student hunger on college campuses. And that's a project we're very interested in. And unfortunately, COVID hit and students left the campus, but we're hoping that when students come back, that we will be able to, get that program running. And that's something that we could quantify, as the representative was saying. These are programs that then you can measure, the impact that you're having. So we're excited about that.
Thanks, Dorothea. People find it hard to believe that there is hunger on our college campuses. There's hunger in our neighborhoods. There's hunger in our senior citizens communities. There's hunger in schools and children. So to really be able to highlight and address an emerging need that is just becoming, to our attention and our understanding.
Right, college is so expensive, and especially at Rutgers in Newark, I think something like over 50% of those students are on Pell Grants. So, they are really struggling, and, they just don't have the money to pay for food at the end of the day. So, and I think out of like 10,000 students, a very small percentage has a food plan. So they have a pantry there, but this was another level that we wanted to give the students. So then we can connect them to those resources, which is always our goal. We use the food, as Mr. Brown said, everybody loves the food. So you have to come in, and that's how we identify and address the barriers that people might be facing.
People that experience homelessness and people that are hungry are us. It's not there but for the grace of God go I, but rather there go I. And to know that pain and to be able to figure out a way of addressing it in such a dignified way as you do at both the Soul Kitchen and the Rutgers campus is really amazing. And I wonder, with all the pressures, John, that you have with your work and, really being an international icon, how you find the time, the strength, and the commitment to keep in this struggle. This is not something that you do, that you've done once and call it a day. For the past 15 years and much longer, you have been day in and day out committed to these issues that many Americans are experiencing. Homelessness is just the tip of the iceberg. These issues impact a lot more people that we don't even see, people like college students that people would assume weren't experiencing these kinds of issues, hunger and homelessness, quite frankly. So what keeps you going? What keeps you energized? And
Well, I think that what keeps me going is that we have a bumper sticker phrase in the office that we don't need a scientist to find the cure. You see, as the congressman stated, you have to repeat the messaging, but you have to make the messaging concise. And they have to have boots on the ground, and people in high places of power in DC need to come to places like Project Home in their neighborhood and witness the transformation of these neighborhoods and witness the difference, empowering somebody in a place like the Soul Kitchen with something as simple as a meal. But remember, in our model, for instance, which we learned from you, sister, it's the difference between giving a man a fish and teaching the man to fish. When you come to a Soul Kitchen, you volunteer. If you can't afford to contribute monetarily in some way, what you do is you volunteer for your meal. Now that's empowering. When you empower someone, there's a sense of pride when they're eating with you. They feel a part of the model and therefore part of the neighborhood, which is a part of the community, and it affects the change directly. So we take that mission to heart every day when we really do feel that it is the power of we. It's not you and it's not me, it's us together. Because I couldn't do any of this without the volunteers. We couldn't feed everybody on the line without those who volunteer at the restaurants, as a for instance. But this effect, it gets much bigger. We have to consider, the minimum wage. We have to consider the effects that people who are working for less than minimum wage is having on our communities. Why is there more people sick and in food deserts? Because the quality of the food they're eating isn't good enough. Why? Because it's cheaper to buy the mass-produced chemical-laden stuff that's leading to bad health care. This problem can be addressed. But there are so many folks who only lack education. They would and are very willing to make that financial difference and contribute to wonderful places like Project Home. Sometimes they just need a very concise elevator pitch, bumper sticker, call whatever you want. Get to the point. They'll donate, but they just don't know. I've met many a man and women who come from affluent communities who have said to me on more than one occasion, there's no hunger issues here. There's no homeless issue here. Yes, there are. Can I explain to you? And then you get to the point concisely, and they're willing to help.
John, thank you so much. On that note, I think we're really wrapping up this part of the virtual panel. And I really want to take the opportunity to thank all of our panelists and to let those folks know that are on the call that we will have the John Bon Jovi Soul Foundation webpage, the Project Home webpage, all up. So if people want to learn more, get involved, there's opportunities to do it. Everyone can make a difference. You can register to vote, and more importantly, vote. You can volunteer at your local soup kitchen or shelter, or many other ways to participate and get involved. Your voter registration drives, whatever motivates you, and be advocates for just and humane social policies. I think that again, just thank you. This has been really wonderful, so inspiring and exciting. Thank you, Congressman Dwight Evans. Thank you, John Bon Jovi and Dorothea. Thank you, Deputy Secretary Adrian Todman. And thank you, Mr. David Brown. This was really incredible. People from all walks of life joining together to really end and prevent homelessness in our country. We need everybody, and we thank everybody, and get more people involved.